The onSecurity podcast aims to inform and challenge the viewer on all things cybersecurity. Our sponsor, Onshore Security, is a premier provider of full telemetry cybersecurity detection via its Panoptic Cyber Defense Service and managed security solutions.
Welcome again to the Onshore Security podcast. I'm Stel Valvanis, CEO of Onshore Security. And today we have Robert Barr. Robert Barr works for Oracle as our Enterprise Transformation Executive, and he has so graciously participated in the Private Directors Association Cybersecurity Governance Committee as the co-chair, reporting to the CEO. Of course, organizations like that always need to do, let's say, get representation from corporate leaders, get representation from many segments of the economy, whatnot. And this is why when I was asked to join PDA under Robert, I was very excited. It's a way that I could contribute. So hello, Robert. Give us a...
Stel, hello. It's an honor to be here and a pleasure to roll up the sleeves and work together with you on the committee. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And let's give a shout to Josh, our production manager here.
Thank you, Josh. Hey.
Thank you, Josh. I think this is like we've worked for a few months together, but this is a cut to the chase kind of talk, to get some word out there about what we're doing, why it's important, whatnot. So start me off. Tell me about PDA, first, before we talk about cybersecurity.
Certainly, Stel. So PDA is a not-for-profit association similar to the NACD for publicly traded companies. It's where for private companies, a board made up of members would belong to the PDA, and they would do that to learn about governance, how to advise at the board level, and also network for a next position. It's just a great way to bring a community together. It's made up of individual members as well as private company boards. So PDA has been around since 2014. I have been a member since 2018. I looked it up, and I was asked to start this committee by the PDA founder and then CEO Ken Hoganson, and I was found by Diane Meister, the chief strategy officer, and that was back in January of 2020. Mm-hmm. So the committee's been around for 3 years. PDA has roughly 3,000 members and growing. It's had incredible growth year over year, especially during the pandemic. And it has 22 chapter cities. So growing, when it started out and a few years ago, it was 4. And so they've done a great job of growing, figuring out how to grow. And part of the culture of PDA, which is a little bit different from some other associations, is that it is about the people. Virtual, we've been doing a good job, strong job of putting out producing webinars and that. However, the bread and butter, if you will, or the mainstay of the operation is around in-person and networking and just enjoying one another's company and helping, collaborating, seeing how we can help one another. Let me pause there for a moment, Stel. Was that more than what you wanted to know, or?
Well, no, not necessarily. There's actually a lot more to it, but I am intrigued by something in particular. And that is that the Private Directors Association, I'd say this is unique amongst associations that represent some kind of career or some kind of practice. And that is that by its nature, a member of it, somebody who is on a private board, is often going to be on multiple private boards. They don't represent one company when they come in as associated with this career track they're on. And I get it that it's not a full-time job, but still, I think that's unique. And as a result, I think it has a real oversized impact. And so if you, for me, that's relevant because I'm here to help cybersecurity mature. And you've probably seen more of what that touches on. in terms of how these board of directors affect those companies and the economy as a whole.
So yes, a member could be on multiple boards,
Mhm.
and it goes from one could be an advisory board member
Mhm.
where uh, uh, a number of times it's based on one's connections. The company is interested in the connections and perhaps investment, right? Um, on another hand, and it's interesting because you look at not only private company boards, there might be private equity, higher education, um, finance, especially with fintech, but there's also family-owned businesses, right? When you take
Yeah.
a look,
Yeah.
for example, I want to say, I believe SC Johnson is a family-owned business, and
Okay.
when you start to work with family, it's incredibly strong. You think about the grassroots, and there's just a different dynamic involved
Hmm.
and different sets of challenges that they face, and they're thinking about the future and the next generation. Um, one of the more unique aspects about PDA is that, and really what it suggests in the market is that private companies, including the family owned, really would benefit from independent board director perspective based on what they're seeing. So, still to your point about being on multiple boards, that's a benefit, not just having a single experience, right, or going to the next, but you can be on multiple at the same time,
Hmm.
and while there's a lot of value and opportunity to it, there is risk as well, right? There,
Right.
there's
Right.
there's insurance for directors and officers and executive and officers, and that to mitigate that risk.
Well, think about things like awareness, sensitivity to all kinds of cultural concerns, diversity, regulations across states, financial and tax implications across different jurisdictions. I mean, I can see so many things where that kind of overlap across organizations and more widely is a huge benefit. Um, and the big one, the one we're here to talk about, is cybersecurity. Now,
Mhm.
our committee is national,
Yes.
and that means we with a lot of people. You know, tell me about why did it get created? What do you think? What your goals are? But what
Mhm.
does PDA wanted when the PDA had you come on board and do this?
Certainly. So when I was asked to come on board, cybersecurity had been a hot topic for a number of years, and it was largely unknown at the board level. If you think about
Mm,
if you think about people on boards, uh, it's interesting because there's different stages of a board member, right? The ones that
mm,
that I've encountered or experienced have been around for decades, right? And they don't necessarily have the more recent experience or leading edge experience, which is really where cybersecurity is. It's been growing quickly, changing. It's had to. It's the next front line of warfare out there.
mm,
And there's a difference between the management, what a company is how they're operating and how they're fighting with respect to cybersecurity. But then there's the board level. What should the board
mhm.
understand when a board member is asked to or when someone is asked to be on a board? It's also about their experience. So if their experience is from 20 years ago and they've been on boards since then, they might not be as up to speed on cybersecurity as well as how to govern on it, with respect to that. So um,
Yeah.
I was asked to come on and help educate board the membership uh, on cybersecurity and how to govern better with respect to it. And from
Right.
that perspective, we've done a little bit differently too,
Yeah.
which is when people think about cybersecurity, when they thought about cybersecurity back in 2017, they thought, oh, cybersecurity insurance, we're set. Well, when you're driving in a car down the road, you say, hey, I don't need to take driving lessons. I just need insurance. No, not the case,
Right.
right? That's not
Right.
the answer. It's a part of the answer. It's just a part. It's a valuable part. And as the insurance market is seeing nowadays, they're still trying to work and figure it out. Right? There's so many exclusions out there that one really needs to be an expert in order to
Right.
understand and figure this out. So
So, Bob, this is intriguing me. Definitely understanding how much value, how valuable awareness is, more knowledge on boards. We've talked in the past about how there could be key individuals on boards, whatnot. But I think there's something different too. I think there's this pressure. Or even direct responsibility now applied to boards. We're seeing it in for organizations that work for federal government. We're seeing it in for public companies. There's new breach disclosure laws, whatnot, and certainly getting insurance, helps. Your metaphor with the cars is perfect with car insurance, but it's not just that. It's also like direct liability responsibility. Actually, and I've seen it starting with banking too. I mean, is there any other space that's like that, like financial, whatnot? I mean, tell me from your experience on private boards. Does anything elevate to that level of where we may actually be directly liable for some actions here, for some activity?
well, I would say, and this is a key area within PDA as well when we take a look at the industries, but private equity, right? That's going to be governed with respect to the SEC, and so there's interesting impact there, as well as healthcare. I would say
Okay.
when I take a look at what the SEC has done, and I hear about private companies saying, "Hey, I don't need to worry about it." One, a number of these hacker attackers, depending on what kind they are, it could be another nation state, it could be
Yeah.
hacktivists and the
Yeah.
other types of bad guys, right? So when doing that, though, they could they could either go direct. I think most people think about hackers going directly to the company, but there's such a thing as island hopping, which is going to in a nearby region, right, or within 50 miles or something. They could be going through a partner, a competitor, just another company that you've never worked with, just to get access to their systems and hop and attack. So it's important to be ready from all sides, right, and be ready, be prepared. So one, the attacks are coming. Two,
Yeah.
is that the SEC has said essentially, publicly traded companies, we can do this for you. We need to accelerate the maturation of your capabilities to be able to defend and be on top of, not just be aware, be on top of, be ready, right? You think about some countries where people have to go through military training, right? And
Mhm.
they're as soon as they hit 17, 18. I would seriously be thinking about that, right? There's a direct parallel there. People need to be ready. Um, so while publicly traded companies are going to be on the hook, director liability, right? There's
Mhm.
no more saying, oh, hey, I wasn't aware. A number of large companies, the boards have been sued. And it's funny because I see some, well, before going there, so it's happening to publicly traded companies.
Mhm.
Private companies, a lot of times they provide services and products. The smaller private companies provide services and products to these publicly traded companies. When you take a look at, for example, SolarWinds, right? Third party partner, right?
Right.
So it's all connected. So the way we as a committee like to think about it and focus on it, Stel, is about the ecosystem. It's about a company's ecosystem with respect to customers, suppliers, the board, the organization, anything else, right? If we
Mhm.
can move the dial on the ecosystem, overall, we're going to be healthy globally.
Right. Right. Well. I mean, you and I, we share that. We see this as a mission. Do the board members see that? How welcoming are they of this push that we're directing?
I uh, I have a perspective that isn't widely shared yet, but it's going to get out there. When you take a look at um, CFOs, when they started back in the 90s, the SEC, suddenly board members had to have financial expertise, right?
Mhm.
You think about CIOs and what they've gone through in the last 20 years, from
Mhm.
being techie, right, to becoming they want to support the business, right?
Mhm.
Some have taken from the lines of business and said, "Hey, you're our new CIO," right? Coming in and trying that, but getting to the point where they're accepted and they're at the table, and not just
Mhm.
as a token C-suite title, but really moving the dial for the
Mhm.
organization and the information supply chain, right? The value supply chain. CISOs are going to be following a similar path. What we need to do is accelerate that. So not just from a
Oh, yeah.
technical perspective, right? But they need
Right.
to understand how to communicate. So the literacy rate, they need to understand business and market, not just business operations. They need to understand market and the strategy and value there. Uh, they need to understand about the capability, not just, and this is where I start to go out there, is that it's not
Mhm.
just about the tools and the hundreds, thousands of PE VC backed cybersecurity tools, right? That's great. Some of those tools aren't even securing enough, nor enough of the right things.
Mhm.
That's why approach is important, and understanding what makes sense and where to invest the dollars. But it's also about so enterprise risk, but there's also a value. What's the opportunity out there? Why are you de-risking there? Why does it make sense? So and understanding that is something that's newer out there and going after it. So I heard recently on a at a virtual conference, which I won't mention, but the person had said that, oh, the uh, and again, people are out there addressing a lot of people, so sometimes mistakes are made. It may not be their official stance, but I had heard CISOs, it's okay just to be technical. You're not going to follow the path of the CIO. Just make sure you have some actuaries and economists nearby to help you with your slide deck, right?
Hmm.
Now I'm adding with that slide deck. It is important. So let's let's take a look at this at a board level. There's going to be multiple committees doing different things, and there's a number of different committees, right? Now these committees are going to be largely defined and put together at the private company level uh, based on the culture of the company and the business owner and the CEO. Uh, they may have committee A, right? But it may not be the same committee A in another company. So based on the culture, they're going to define and set up what their committees are. PDA has already talked about what kind of committee that cybersecurity should be involved with, right? There should be another committee. It shouldn't necessarily just be on the technology or audit compliance, right? There are aspects of it, and that's really where I'm getting to. There could be a cybersecurity, there could be a risk committee too. However,
Mhm.
there likely is a strategic planning committee. Okay. So I shared this story previously about my conversations with Harley back in 2017. Harley Davidson motorcycles. Indian was eating their market, taking their market share. And 2017, cybersecurity insurance, right? Well, that's great, but we want to talk about the Harley experience in the community. I want to talk with marketing about their customer segments and about the generations and about why don't you take a look, because each motorcycle, it's got Bluetooth, it's got Wi-Fi, it's its own endpoint, if you will. It's a risk. Let's focus on the rider and securing their experience. You don't have to talk about securing the experience. put it in terms that's going to resonate with them. But Harley, you should take care of that. And you will then think about all the hacks and identity theft and that are happening today. If Harley we're going to take care of you, and you're going to be able to appreciate that vista as you look out and as you're riding, right? You may have LifeLock, you may have other things to protect you. Know that you're protected when you're riding with your friends. So I was talking to him more about that. How can we take market share back? How can we increase your revenues? And how can you tap into that next generation of riders? And
right.
So when you think about the strategic planning committee, you need the skill set of understanding about cybersecurity, not just the risk, but where can you take a look at the product or solution and bring these aspects in to come up with a competitive advantage. And
Wow.
that aspects like that is where we're going to get to.
Wow. Leave it to enterprise transformation guy to draw dotted lines all the way across the planet. No, seriously, we have a slogan onshore. We say, because security gives us freedom. And what we mean by that is the freedom to innovate and grow and try things. But you took it beyond that to making it part of the product, so the cybersecurity maturity, or even better, the cybersecurity qualities themselves, the characteristics themselves, the elements become part of the product. Kudos to you, Bob, for that one. But this is how it's going to succeed. It's kind of like you don't make a door without locks built into it, or designed kind of with locks in mind. And in fact, you make it a feature because it could have super duper locks on it, whatnot. So
Sure.
I love it. I love it. I'm also saying often, the compliance is the driver. For getting things to happen, and I do very much believe that. And sadly, I would say to a great extent, and the distant second being security maturity. Let's make enablement. Let's make transformation, and let's make an elevated capabilities actually the driver, like you're describing.
And Stel,
Yeah.
let's keep in mind too that 100% of the companies that were compliant have already likely been hacked. Right.
Right. Well, compliance is not security. Agreed.
So compliance is important, right? Just like cybersecurity, it's not just address it there and you're done. There's audit, there's compliance, there's ensuring hygiene. Then there's also part of the strategic planning, as I mentioned, and how can we differentiate our product and where are we going? It's a valuable skill set, and it's a different way to think about things.
I think it's wonderful.
Sorry, one more point, Stel. I apologize for interrupting. There's McKinsey is putting out articles now about it's important for companies to hire the right executives that have a digital mindset, that understand the technologies. They said, hire them and put them in as CEO. There's something to that.
Oh, that's a big step.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're taking, I'm never going to argue somebody saying that people at the CEO level should have good technical chops, but they're saying lead with that. That's a big step. I applaud them.
Leading with that is understanding the value of the tool. Technology is another tool, right? So it's understanding the market, the value, the need, and being able to bring that together, not just coming up with a value proposition, but how to get to market faster. And upon doing that, understanding your customer, your market segments with your customers, and where are they from a maturation perspective, and what's V2 of your customer going to look like? Where do you want them to go?
Right. Knowing your market. That's actually my number one investment criteria for the founders. Know your market. Mm-hmm. And now we're mixing things like privacy too. Where do people care about it or not?
Yep.
This is awesome, and we're gonna have you on again. I hope to continue talking about the program at PDA and whatnot, and more of the impacts especially as we go along, we see them. We're working on these things in our smoky back room. So, but you heard it first here, kids. Be nice to nerds. Someday they may be your boss. Okay.
Amen.
All right. Well, thank you, Robert Barr. from Oracle, National Cybersecurity Governance Committee for the Private Directors Association. Love working with you. We're doing cool stuff. We're going to do more. Josh, thank you for your awesome production work. And, yeah. All right.
Thank you. It's been an honor.